Hi again. As you probably know, your final project for this course is a two-page magazine spread using your typographic report as well as various type elements in the font you've chosen to work with. So in this video, I'm going to show you three different websites that will hopefully inspire you and be good sources of reference information as well. This first one is serifcalm, and it's a design grid overview. Now, I went over design grids in an earlier video, but this one has a refresher for that, and that's great because you never refresh these kinds of pieces of information too much. It's good to review it and have access to it in different places. So this website talks again about grids and specifically how they're used here for magazine layout. And you'll see examples of different page layouts using photographs and headlines and text. They're pretty basic. They're not super exciting. However, they're good because they're basic and they utilize the rules of grid use quite well, I think. Here's a good example of a two-column grid on a two-page spread. Notice particularly how the white space above the title adds to some good balance here. So don't be afraid of leaving sections of your pages blank as long as they work with the rest of the layout. And this takes a little practice to know when that can happen, but you just want to play around with it and also look at spreads such as this or other layouts that you find appealing and notice specifically how the white space and negative space is used. Here's an example of fairly uncommon for print, but a horizontal page and how a two-column grid could be adapted for that. With more and more magazines and publications and basically a lot of communication taking place now on screens, the horizontal page will no doubt become more and more common for layout considerations. So it's good to review nice balanced layouts in the horizontal page. So this site goes through different types of grids. This one shows examples of the three-column grid, different ways you can treat them in both horizontal and vertical formats. This one here is a three-fold brochure, horizontal page divided into three columns, treated with some good negative space, etc. So there are good examples. Again, they're very simple, but they're basic and easy to understand on this site and helpful for you as you design your own two-page spread for your project. So this is really a good thing to know about and a good thing to check out. The next website is quite a bit different. It's called magspreads.net, and it's an interview with David Carson, a very well-known graphic designer in the 1990s, and I did mention him in an earlier video about innovative graphic designers. And this is a short interview with him. But what I wanted to share was the images that are on this video. He is the founder and publisher of Ray Gun magazine, which again came out in the mid-90s. And at that time, this was very groundbreaking graphic design wise because he actually is not a classically trained graphic designer, but he went in and founded this magazine and just basically threw out all the rules. And luckily he's talented and creative, and he has a great sense of visual communication. So a lot of the things he did were extremely effective. But you'll notice things like really wonky letter spacing here, the way the letters are running into one another, bleeding off the page. He's mixing up type styles, and yet it still works in this funky, grungy, deconstruction way that was pretty popular back then. And I actually think this is still quite fresh. I really like the way this stuff works together. So very different from the classically, based magazine spreads, but really good for a fresh look. This particular piece here I really like because it's a two-page spread and an interview with the band Wire. Again, notice the funky letter spacing. But what's cool about this is the way that the paragraphs have been angled at a 45-degree angle. You'll notice that they're very tightly set up. They're justified alignments. They're very pretty ordered, but then the whole thing is turned on its side. And they're numbered so you know what order to read them in. So it's quite funky, yet it's very fresh, and it's got a lot of dynamics to it. Again, notice a lot of white space. When you do something this dramatic, you really do need to have white space to give the eye a little bit of a rest, because there's a lot going on this spread. But this is very cool. I like this a lot. And so there are more examples of his work as you scroll down this site. Here's a good example of what I call typographic art. These navy blue, what look like either nines or lowercase g's, I really can't tell, but they're, treated as this sort of funky element in the center of the spread. Notice that he reverses text on purpose. He's really treating text here as a visual element, something to look at, not necessarily to read. So this beautiful page, it has some great examples of that style of layout. This last website here is more straightforward and more classically laid out, but very good examples of inspiring magazine designs. This is bestdesignoptions.com, and there's nothing particular I want to point out here except that these are nicely laid out, consistent, good use of white space, good use of imagery and text balance. Notice the overlapping rectangles and how the blue title appears to be broken through the brown square there. Little simple things. Now, one thing that you can do as a student, you are certainly welcome to take these and recreate them. You can copy them, you can have fun with recreation to learn. You won't be accused of plagiarism or appropriation as long as you're using them to further your own skills, and of course not selling them. But as a student, it's perfectly fine to look at these things, get inspired by them, and go ahead, try to recreate them. Your own voice will creep in, your own style will come through, so you won't really be, it's not stealing, it's learning, it's growing. So I'm hopeful that these sites and this whole idea of exploration will be inspiring for you, particularly as you go to create your final project magazine spread. Thanks and good luck.